Well, welcome to my shop. I'm Earl. This Earl's Small Segment Shop. How do you like my new t-shirt? Pretty nice, huh? I'm going to do the second part of the open segment anybody can do. Now the first part I did was very basic and simple. The second part I'm going to use basically the same pattern, but instead of using two woods for the pluses, or X's, or crosses, whatever you want to call them, one wood on the first row and one wood on the second row, I'm going to use four woods. Wood 1 and 2, 1, 2 on the first row, and woods 3, 4, 3, 4 on the second row. Which means instead of the pattern being 4 segments across and then repetitive, it'll be 8 segments across and repetitive. Right here, I got a drawing of it. I'll get a still picture of it for you. And I'm going to put it on a small floating bottom. I was thinking 8-inch, but I think I'll go with 7-inch. Now you don't have to use a floating bottom. I use a floating bottom on anything over 6 inches and sometimes below 6 inches because of wood movement and because I don't have any end grain to contend with. I like it. But basically because of wood movement now. If you want to see a floating bottom video, I got a video just on how to make floating bottoms. But I'm going to use a floating bottom. I'm going to use a kind of a medium colored wood for the background wood. Here it is. That's the wood that surrounds the crosses. And I'm going to use 4 different woods for the crosses themselves. So now instead of each pattern being 4 wide, it's going to be 8 wide, which means I can't use 20 segments per ring. I'm going to use 24 segments per ring. I'm going to use the commercial index wheel again. Now the smallest ring on the index wheel that I don't have the latest one, but the smallest index ring I have is 48 indexes, which is perfect for 24 per ring. That's 24 for the first ring and 24 offset for the second ring. Now I've already got them marked. I marked 24 of them with a magic marker, which I can take off later with alcohol real easy. And I left 24 unmarked. So marked 1, unmarked, marked, unmarked, all the way around. Give me 24 marked and 24 unmarked. I am going to put trim rings on this one. I cut some material for some trim rings. I'm going to put a maple trim ring. Actually, I'm going to use it for a cap ring on the floating bottom. Maple, and I'm going to put a bloodwood and a maple. Now the nice thing about trim rings, you can put any number you want, any size you want, any combination you want. Like for instance, I could put a maple and then a bloodwood and then a yellow heart and then a bloodwood and then a maple and make 2 of them thin and 3 of them a little bit thicker, whatever. The combinations are limitless, whatever you like. But that's what I'm going to do. And I found on Amazon some blades for next time I decide to make some corn-off planes. I found some blades. Now the ideal blade for a turn-off plane, of course, is a big, thick, heavy blade. And there's a company that makes them. I haven't ever seen any from the company, and I'm not going to say the company's name, but I understand they got good quality blades, and I understand they got kits for making turn-off. But I found a big, thick, heavy blade on Amazon at a reasonable price. And it is, let me see here. It is 0.19 inches thick, which is pretty thick for a blade. So I'm going to, next time I decide to make some Kurnoff blades, I'm going to try that blade there. Also, I found a blade with a cap iron comes with it. I'm going to try that one too for another Kurnoff plane. If you don't have a thick blade, you use a cap iron. Of course, I'm going to have to fine-tune the cap iron to the blade. It's just rough right now. I mean, it sits pretty good, but I'm going to have to fine-tune it. So I got those just to see next time I make some Kurnoff planes. I also found a blade for a shoulder plane. So I'm going to make a shoulder plane when I'm at it. But not right now. That's the next time I make some Kurnoff planes. I got stock cut for the floating bottom. I'm going to make a bottom piece from Wenge. The very bottom piece. The part that's got the rabbet in it that holds the floating bottom. Got a piece here, make a floating bottom out of its tamaran. I glued pieces together. Then I'm going to put trim rings on it. I think I'm going to put a maple trim ring, actually act a cap ring and make it thin, be a cap ring and a trim ring at the same time. Then I'm going to put in a bloodwood trim ring. Then I'll follow it with another maple trim ring. Of course, I'll just make one maple ring and split it. So I planned on making an 8-inch bottom, but I think I'm going to change that to a 7-inch bottom. I think that'll be more realistic for this turning. I'm going to use 24 segments per ring. So the closed ring, 7-inch closed ring, 24 segments. Each segment's going to be 0.9215, 0.93. It's going to be cut at an angle of 7.5 degrees. So I've got my sled marked. In fact, my sled super accurate. I'm going to have to make 3 closed segment rings. I've got the base made, floating base. I've got 3 trim rings on it. The paper's glued on just around the edges. Same diameter as the ring is going to be glued on. The ring's ready to go. Put it in the tailstock. Bring the tailstock up. Bring her down. Spin it around. Get the glue spread out. Get the glue spread out good. Tighten it down. We'll let her set and then we'll be ready to turn it. Put a rabbet in it. a thin maple, thin bloodwood, another thin maple. Now, you don't have to use a floating base. That's up to you. Size of it is up to you. And the trim ring. Now, trim rings, you can use as many as you want, whatever size you want, thickness, whatever combination, whatever looks good to you, you can use. So now, I'm ready to put the first segmented ring on. So people ask me, what in the world was that? Huh, I don't know. People ask me, how do I figure out the shape and the size and where the segments go? Now, of course, some people prefer to use a computer program to figure all that out. If you like to use a computer program, fine. That's up to you. They work, as far as I know. I tried using them, and I found out it's much easier for me just to draw them out and put them on paper. So I got the pattern. Now what I do is first figure out what shape I want. I'm going to make this one my signature shape. The next thing I figure what size I want. Now there's 2 or 3 ways you can do it. You can say, okay, I want it 7 inches tall, so the base is going to be 3/4 of an inch, and the top solid ring is going to be 1/4 of an inch, so that leaves 6 inches. And I want 13 rows of open segments, so you divide 6 inches by 13 and it'll give you the size of open segments you need. Let's say 6 inches divided by 13 equals, so you need 0.46 inch thick segments. Or you can say, okay, I like to use 1/2 inch thick segments, which I do. I like 1/2 inch thick. I got a lot of them cut already. And, well, I just like 1/2 inch high segments. So I'm going to use 1/2 inch high segments. So I want a 7 inch bottom. So I draw it out with a 7 inch bottom. And then I add my segments. 13 rows of segments is 6.5 inches. So 3/4 bottom. I got some trim rings. If that's another 1/4 of an inch, say an inch for the bottom of the trim rings. 6.5 inch for the segments, and then 1/4 inch for the top. So that will decide how high it is. And like I said, I already got 7 inch bottom. So I draw it out with a nice curve like I want, and then I can draw in the segments, and then I can measure how far out each segment is. I know it's really hard to explain, but it's really very simple. So I've been doing it enough so I don't really have to draw it out anymore. I pretty much know what I want. So it's ready to go. And the first row of open segments, now I'm going to measure the exact size of the bottom and the trim rings. It can vary. The exact size is 6 7/8 right now. So I am going to make the first open segment ring 7.5 inches. So I got my pattern. And the pattern says, now like I said, I'm going to use background wood. I'm going to use bubinga. This is bubinga here. I'm going to use that for background wood. And then I got 4 woods for the pluses. So the first row, now I've got a still picture I put up on that. First row is going to have 1 inch of those, but of course it's going to be repeated 3 times. This is 8 segments across, and I'm using 24 segments per ring, so it's going to be repeated 3 times. So I'll need 3 of each of the 4, and then of the background I got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to need 16? No. I'm going to need 12 of these. 12 of the Bubinga and 4 of each of the others. Now, the index ring, I'm going to use a commercial index ring. It's 24 segments per ring. The index ring I got the older model. It's got 48 segments on the inner ring. That's the ring I'm going to use. I got half of them marked and half of them unmarked, so it's 24 marked and 24 unmarked. So the marked ones for the first row, unmarked for the second row, and so on. And I'm going to use the commercial gluing platform. But I could just as well have used the homemade ones. I've got a whole set of homemade ones. That's 64. There's one I got. It's 48 indexes right there, homemade, easy to do. I got a better explanation than that on the first of this series. First one, I also got it on, I think I got a video on just making these. But they're very easy to make and it works perfect. I made many a turning with them. So yeah, I could use that, but I'm going to use a commercial one. Then I could use the homemade gluing platform. So I'm going to go ahead and cut segments, 24 open segments. I said 7.5 inches, 7.5 inches, 24 open segments going to be cut at 5.25 degrees. And they're going to be cut at a length of 0.69, 0.7. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up all the segments and get ready to glue them on. I said I need 12 of the Bubinga and 4 of the rest of them. In actuality, I need 3 of the rest of them. So I got 4 extra pieces cut. I got my gluing platform set up to cut 7.5 inch, make a 7.5 inch circle. It's 3 3/4 from the center line. So this is ready to go. I already have my index wheel marked, so I'm going to set up the index wheel, set up the gluing platform, be ready to glue these on. I got them lined up in a sequencer going on. I'm going to be using Quick and Thick. Quick and Thick, I only have to clamp them for 5 seconds. If I use tight bound 2, I have to clamp them for 10 seconds. So I'm going to get everything set up, and I'll glue a couple on, and then I'll glue a couple on with the other camera, and then finish up gluing the rest on. I'm going to use the unmarked indexes for the first ring. I got it lined up so the segment will be glued on right over the joint of this trim ring. Got them set up the way I want them to glue on, ready to go. So I'm going to put a light layer glue on it, very light layer. Hold it for 5 seconds. Go to the next unmarked index. Take the next segment. Again, a light coat of glue, very light coat. Hold up for 5 seconds. Go to the next index. And I'm just going to go ahead and glue all the rest of the segments on this ring. The first row's on, nice and evenly spaced exactly from the center. I gotta let it dry 15 minutes before I sand it or anything else. After 15 minutes I can sand it, turn it, whatever I want. I know, they say you gotta wait 24 hours. I wait 15 minutes, never had a problem. So, the next ring, let me look at the drawing here and see just how, where'd my pencil, see just how far from the center I want, how big a ring I want. So this one was 7.5. So the next one measured out from the center. It's going to be 8 inch. And so, 8 inch, get my cheat sheet. Now I got cheat sheets for all the usable segments per ring on the commercial index wheels. If you want a cheat sheet, it's got closed segments and open segments, the angle and the cut length. All you have to do is email me. Don't leave me an email address, but email me and ask for a cheat sheet. And I'll leave my email address at the end of the video. So, 8 inch, cut angle 5.25. It's going to be 7372, 0.7372. 0.7372. Come on. I think a battery's getting dead in here. .738, close enough. Don't have to be that exact. And got that set so I can set up my distance on my sled. Looking at the pattern, let's see if I can cut the right number this time, not like last time. Looking at the pattern, I'm going to need 12 bubinga again, but this time I think I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to need 12. No, that can't be right. 2. I'm going to need 6. I'm going to need 6 of the maple and 6 of the silkwood. And 12 of the bubinga. Make sure I get that straight this time. I got the second row cut, feathers knocked off, got them lined up the way they're going to be glued on. So now, it's been at least 15 minutes. I can go ahead, chalk the first ring and sand it. Every ring's got to be sanded flat. So, gonna chalk them all. Regular old sidewalk chalk. We'll have to buy some more pretty soon. These things are getting awful small pieces. The fact is, this one's getting hard to hold on to. We'll get them all chalked. Take my sanding board. Better start the vacuum. mark's gone. Let me hit it with a smoother side a little bit. Side ain't quite so rough. Ready to glue on the next ring. Then I'll be ready to glue the second ring on. Gluing the second ring on, of course, I'm going to use the marked indexes. I'm going to set this, of course, for an 8-inch ring, which is 4 inches from the center. Got it set. So I got to sand that, and then we'll start gluing again. I'll glue a couple on the camera, and that'll be the last ring I'll do that with. All of the rest of them will just be repetitive, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll sand this one on camera, and then we'll glue a couple on, and I'll finish the ring. Okay, I've got it set on the marked indexes. Make sure I got it starting in the right spot for the pattern. Take the first segment. Again, a light coat of glue. Hold it for 5 seconds. Let's go on to the next marked index. We'll do another one on the same way. It's amazing when these things are flat and fit perfect. Only takes 5 seconds for them to hold. Okay, I'm going to the next index, and I'm going to finish this ring. The second ring's on. I'm going to let it set while I cut the third ring. So from now on, I'm just going to cut, sand, glue, cut, sand, glue. Add rings for a while. It's all repetitive, the same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep adding rings out for a ways. I've got 2 open segment rows on now. What I'm going to do is start turning the inside just to the first row. I'm going to touch the second row. I know a lot of people say, well, you're not supposed to turn the inside first, you're supposed to turn the outside first. Well, if I have a solid piece of wood I'm making a bowl out of, it's quite logical, yes, to turn the outside first. And there's a lot of people that still glue up segments off the lathe and then put them on the lathe. They can turn the outside first, turn the inside however they want to do it. But I build up my turnings on the lathe. After all, it only takes 15 minutes for glue to dry. I know Typebound says it takes 24 hours, but 15 minutes is all you really need. And I find it much easier to turn the inside when I'm working on them. It's easy to get to right now. The last turning I made was 27 inches tall with a hole about this big in the top. Now if I had to turn the inside after I finished building it up, I'd have been in a problem. So yeah, I find it real easy to turn as I go out. I already know what the shape is. I already know how thick the walls are going to be. So that's what I'm going to do. And like I said, if you like to turn the outside first and the inside, fine. Do it your way. That's fine. But I'm going to go ahead and turn the first ring. Well, I finally got all of the open segments on. Took a while. House duties, yard duties, had to go to Raleigh twice, had appointments, had to go to the Art Council and give a talk, one thing after another. But I finally got all the open segments on. Seems like took a while. And of course the shop now is cold and I got to warm it up. I don't keep it heated overnight, so I got to warm it up in the morning. It limits how much time I got. So they're all on. Now I got to repeat the trim rings. A small maple, a bloodwood, then another small maple, and I parted the bloodwood on the bottom, so I still got a bloodwood ring. Don't have to make another bloodwood ring, but I used all the maple. Of course, I put it on, parted it, and then put the other piece on. So I got to make a new maple ring. I got it cut, ready to go. And after I put the trim rings on, of course, I'm going to have to put the top ring on. The bottom, I used wenge, so keeping with the woods I used in the turning. I think on the top I'm going to use Purple Heart. I think that'll work, yeah. Wenge on the bottom, Purple Heart on the top. It's a good hard wood. I want a hard wood on the top and the bottom. That's for wear and tear, of course. So, right now, I got to glue this up. I'll glue it on. Then after I glue it on, I'll part it in two. So, I'll go ahead and glue it up and get it ready. The last open segment row's on. It's been sanded flat. I got to put the trim rings on. I made a maple ring, oh, almost an inch thick probably. I'm going to glue it on. I'm going to split it and keep half of it for the other trim ring. It's going to be maple, bloodwood, maple. I've got the bloodwood ring that I had from the bottom. So I'm going to need, like I said, maple, bloodwood, maple. I'm going to split the maple. So I'm going to put this in the coal jaws, spread a light coat of glue on it, and bring it up. Coal jaws will keep it perfectly centered. Don't have to worry about trying to center it on it. Coal jaws and the tailstock takes care of that. What I'm going to do though is line the joints on this up so they're right over the top of an open segment. After this dries, then I'll turn it round, turn the inside round, and I'll part it in half. Then I'll thin down the ring to match the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it in the coal jar, put some glue on it, and glue it up. I've got the first maple ring, trim ring on, turned aside. Got the bloodwood ring on, turned aside. Got the second maple ring glued on, not turned yet. I made a Purple Heart ring. Now, I use scrap pieces. I'm just letting them go to waste. So, some of the segments are a little bit higher than the others. Yeah, but that's okay. I'll run it through the drum sander. I could have put it in the coal jar and put it on, turned it, but I don't want to take the turning off, put the coal jaws on just to turn this. So I'm going to use a drum sander and level it out. And actually, it's a good 3/8 inch thick at the thinnest spot. And I'm only going to make it about, quarter, 3/8 of an inch thick on the top. I don't want a real thick ring on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and just start running it through the drum sander and bringing it down and flattening it. I turned the inside, turned the outside. Excuse me. I sanded it. Sanding don't take very long at all. Went right through the grits. Just a quick pass with each grit. I'm going to put some finish on it now. I haven't decided. Probably put shellac on it, inside and out. After that, I'm going to have to take it off the faceplate and turn the bottom. But I'm going to put some finish on it and let it dry. I've been using the carbide tools more and more. The more I use them, the more I seem to like them. I like the round ones. I especially like them on a round shaft. I have used them on the outside on a square shaft a few times. But yeah, the more I use them, the more I seem to like them. The nice thing about them is you can resharpen them. Now, I know the manufacturers come out with the angled ones, so you don't get a catch. Really, they come out with them so you can't resharpen them. So, I'm going to go ahead, put some finish on it, and I'm going to put the finish on it. I'm going to let the finish sit for a while before I pull it off and do the bottom. It's been sanded all the way up to 800, so it's pretty smooth. It's turned, it's sanded. Sanding's the easy part. Don't believe me? Look at my sanding video. It's so easy. Put a little finish on it. But now, we got to remove the faceplate from it. It's on with brown paper, so I just got to find the right spot, take it off. Got to get the right place. Got to get the right place. Once you get it started, it comes off pretty easy. Just getting it started. I missed it there. There we go. There we go. There, it's off. Now, got to put it in the cold jar, bring the center up on the back, and turn the bottom. Now, to turn the bottom, if I bring the pointy center up on it, it'll punch a hole right through this thin bottom. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use one of these. Oh, this one fits perfect. Put it right in here. And then that'll spread the force out. Put the center cone on it. Then I can turn the bottom easy. So I'm going to set up the cold jaws. I'm going to use the tapered pins, hold it from the inside. And I'm going to bring the center up on the bottom to hold it. And I'm going to finish turning the bottom. I turned the bottom. I signed it. I got to pull the tape off the top yet. But other than that, it's finished. Very easy turning. Using basically the same pattern as the first one, but I get a much different turning. Use a floating bottom. I like a floating bottom better. Don't get no end grain. Use trim rings. Use 4 different woods for the crosses. So I think it looks completely different using basically the same pattern. Now, I used 24 segments. I could have done it with a homemade index wheel, very easy to make. I got a video on how to make them. And if I'd have used 32 segments, it would have looked much nicer. And again, there's 64 index wheel for making 32 segments per ring. Very, very easy to make, and it works quite well. And of course, making a homemade gluing platform is very easy. I got a video on that too. But I used commercial ones, and commercial ones work great. Now, I don't get any benefit from any commercial ones that are being sold. So, like I said, very easy to do. Looks different. And I don't know what I'm going to do next. I think I'm going to make a solid turning. I've been thinking about making one with bloodwood and African blackwood trim on it. Just a solid one. I think I might do that next. So please come back and see my next video.